On this episode of ResiWeek, a guide to RMS, hacking your TV, and NAD's new streamer. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 201, The Golden Chalice.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Middle Atlantic. What great systems are built on.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, we are pleased to be joined by my good friend, Heather Sidorowicz. She is the president of Southtown Audio Video. How are you, ma'am?
I am doing well. We're days away from Christmas and still afloat, so life is good.
Fantastic. This is kind of like one of the family shows because you and I go way, way back.
We do.
We have a friendly-ish brother-sister relationship, if I can be so bold.
I think that that's a really good way to put it. Like that kind of that love-hate relationship.
Yeah. We get along, but we also like to just tease each other a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. Not crazy, just enough.
Right.
And then
but no one else is allowed to pick on the other one.
No. Oh God,
right.
No. No, that's asking for just
only
death.
Us. We're allowed to do it, right?
Yeah. You pick on her, I'm coming for you. Speaking of rounding out the family, we have how do I do this one? The brother from another.
I don't know.
The brother from another mother, or the weird uncle.
I'll take the weird uncle for 500.
Really? Wow.
I'd be honored to have Tim as my weird uncle.
Weird uncle, yeah. Weird Uncle Tim. Hey, Tim. It's Tim Albright. He's the founder of AVNation. How are you, sir?
I am doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Congratulations on your Bears beating my team that didn't board the plane. So that was great for you. Not so good for me, but football's like that.
It is like that, especially this year.
Oh yeah.
They just called the Buffalo Bills America's spirit team. So.
Wow. I'm not sure I would hold on to that one.
I debated coming up for that game this week. I thought about it, and then I didn't. But I thought about it for a minute. It looked great. All right, let's kick into some AV stuff because that's probably why you're here, not to talk about our weird family dynamics. Coming to us from Residential Systems, an integration guide to remote management services. This is from Karen Mitchell. If you know anything about this industry the last 3 or 4 years, RMR, RMS, however you want to phrase it, recurring monthly revenue, remote management services, which again is just another AV spin on RMR, is really what everyone is continually talking about and very few people seem to be doing effectively. But in this article from Karen, she interviews 3 integrators who seem to have this locked up. Heather, I want to start with you on this one, being the other integrator. We continually hear, and this article really continues that narrative, that RMR, RMS in this case, is that holy grail of making your client's life better, causing you less headaches, bringing you more money. But no one's really seemed to, in my opinion, has really seemed to create a blueprint for how to make this happen, how to sell this easily to clients. Based on this article and a lot of the others recently, it leads me to believe that the best way to sell RMS or RMR is to kind of force feed it down your clients' throats and just say, hey, if you buy from us, you're buying one of these service plans. And I don't know, ADT seems to have failed miserably doing that type of thing. Why is that the approach that we continually seem to take in this industry?
I think that there's perspective versus reality. So I think we know as integrators that this is a golden chalice that we all want. We've seen alarm companies who have, boats on the water that were probably bought through their recurring revenue. So we want that too. And my belief is also that it gets a lot of clicks. So our magazine companies, they're gonna promote these articles. They're gonna see it all the time, and they're gonna say how it's a great thing. But to make it in actuality is much more difficult, right? So perspective, yes, great, wonderful. Reality, not so easy to come into play, because you can get into a lot of trouble that way too, right? If I tell my customers it's a certain price, but now I'm spending more that could put me asunder.
Mhm.
So we currently don't have that plan. There's certainly a part of me that wishes we did. I wish of course, who wouldn't want more money for less potential work? But I do agree that there are some that have done very well with it. I think it depends on, you have to be very number driven to be able to make that a success. But yeah, I do think that I think that it's talked about more than it's actually done out there in the great big world.
Very good. Tim, you're nodding your head along with that line. You and I have gone down this conversation many, many times, from both the residential to the light commercial to the commercial. Again, just as Heather said, this is something that's talked about all the time, and it's framed really well, but it never seems to work. Is it the same in the light commercial? Is that an easier avenue to kind of kick that off if you're an integrator, to say, hey, we're going to go after this from our light commercial or our commercial clients? Or is it just a lose-lose?
It's not a lose-lose. It's a process, though. I think the best way I've heard it put is you have to retrain your entire organization to go down this road. Yeah, you're still selling boxes, and yes, you're still selling services, but you have this entire other organization of managed service, and that's kind of what you end up being as an MSP. And you do it for two different reasons. Heather mentioned one of them. You have recurring revenue. This is a revenue stream that you're going to have every single every single year. The other reason that you do it is for the profitability and for the eventual, selling or getting, you retiring. And one of the metrics I was told from a different organization, MSP, these folks did VoIPs. They do phone systems. If you have recurring revenue, that can be valued between 5 and 6 times your annual revenue. Now, if you are somebody who is considering a plan of retiring or moving on, and you start going down this road and you start looking into it, some folks will give you 2 to 3 times revenue. Some folks will give you maybe up to 3.5. I've never seen it as high as 5 and 6. And when it comes to MSPs and recurring revenue, that's what these folks are talking about, is when you go to sell your business, you can realize up to 5 or 6 times revenue. That's a huge thing, especially in the AV industry. So there's 2 reasons to do it. One is to kind of shore up and give yourself a good foundation annually. The other reason is when you look into selling and moving on from that business.
No, right. We shouldn't be looking at it though for like what's the best for our clients, and is it the best? And maybe it is, right? The ability to fix those things, but I guess I look at it things maybe from more of an organic standpoint. That is it best for our clients, or is it best because eventually I want to get out?
Well, and to counter that point, I understand completely what you're saying, Tim, but let's be really blunt about the residential side of the industry. Almost no one can sell their company. Like it almost never happens in this side of the industry where you run a successful company and you sell it to somebody else.
Okay.
Heather, you're honestly one of the outliers that I know of who was able to obviously, you kind of grew up in this, you worked in this, and then you purchased the company. That's really rare.
Yeah, and I think it did because I knew its value because I was part of it, right? So I think I'm a unique case that way to buy it, and bought it for, a lot of it was inventory that we had, so it gave a much better value.
Mm-hmm.
But is it, and let me ask this, because you and I haven't really talked about this in depth, Heather. Is it also because it was a family business, right? You guys,
absolutely, yeah.
Ultimate succession plan here, right? Where
and it wasn't a long-term plan. It was. I have been at the company at that point. So I bought it in 2014. So it was 13 years when I bought it, and it was really because I was doing so much of it anyway, and my father didn't have a plan. He didn't have a way out. And so it was a line in the sand is what it was. Yeah. So by making that, he could feel that he didn't need to be so involved anymore. And then I could really, since I was doing all these different pieces anyway, I could then finally truly take the reins and move forward into the sunset.
The stat I love about this, and then we'll change topics for a minute, is we have a lot of clients that are in the medical industry on our commercial side, and when they buy a quote unquote book of business, so if they go and buy another partner's dental practice or a chiropractor practice or any other practice, they go in and they purchase it, their attrition rate upon purchase is 50 to 65%.
Oh, wow.
Will leave. So you go out and you pay X number of dollars for that dental practice and you're bringing it into your fold. They're expecting at least 50% of those patients to leave.
That's crazy.
And that has to factor, it may not be that high in our industry, but that's one of those things that I always come back to with these kind of stories about, let's get into RMR because it's going to, give us a ton of value. If you take that and then multiply it by 2%, as you were saying, Tim, but then recognize that maybe you're going to lose 25% of that revenue in that first year, that's it's not something that I would base my business on, which makes me go back to Heather's point of you got to do what's best for your clients.
And I truly believe that that's where reoccurring revenue comes from. And I have this conversation all the time on the commercial side of the business that, if we're doing the right thing and we're taking care of our client, our reoccurring revenues that they come back again and again, and they grow. Yeah. And then they ask us questions that they didn't think that we did, or they ask us to go down a path that's not maybe in the center of our wheelhouse, but they really appreciate that relationship so that they want to do that project with us. That's where the recurring revenue comes from again, but I think I look at it from a different perspective, organic growth and organic revenue.
I like that growth though. I like that side. Speaking of doing what's best for your clients, I'm laughing a little bit because this is one of those articles that I love to see and scares me to death all at the same time. This comes to us from CE Pro. The FBI has issued warnings on smart TV hacks. They have determined that a certain number of smart TVs with built-in microphones and cameras, read between the lines of that, pretty much every TV sold in Best Buy, Costco, or by us today has a microphone in it or a webcam or something in it. So the FBI is warning that you need to be paying attention to this, because not only may the TV manufacturer and some of those app developers be listening and watching not only what you're watching, but potentially you in the room, you're also making it fairly easy for hackers to come in and potentially do this. Now, I don't want to go down oh my God, the hackers are coming for us, as much as I believe that to be very true. I want to kind of take this in a bit of a cybersecurity best practice direction. So, Tim, I'm going to come back to you on this one to kind of kick it off. Obviously, you can't take advantage of the majority of these smart TV functions if you don't enable access to all of these things.
Yep.
You also, as much as in their couple points of what to do, there's no passwords to change on a Samsung TV. There may be on a Sony. I don't know off the top of my head, but off the majority of the TVs that I know that my company sells internally, there's no passwords to change. There's nothing in those TVs that can be significantly adjusted to complicate somebody coming in. You're very limited in what connections you have there. So obviously in a perfect world, you put these on a VLAN, you do a bunch of really sophisticated stuff, but when the device doesn't let you do it, how much of this type of article is a bit of a fearmonger?
It's a little bit, and it's let's be honest, it is the holiday season, and there are going to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these sold, and Samsung and Sony, and all of them want millions of these to be sold. So it's a little bit of a clickbait and fear mongering in the season where we're all buying them and having them put in, or buying them from you guys and having them put in. But they are vulnerable, right? Especially if it's a DIY scenario. That's why there are professionals like you and Heather and your companies, because you guys will do certain things. If it was just my dad, and I pick on my dad a lot. You know, he's in his 70s. Well, he'll be in his 70s soon. He'll go out and buy a TV and type in the login and password for the wireless, and suddenly he has a smart TV and he's doing his Netflix thing, right? He won't think twice about, oh, there's a new app, I'm going to click on that, or somebody sends me something. Let's just say that there's been more than one time where he's had to have his computers restored. And he has, clicked on things that he shouldn't have, and suddenly one of his bank accounts was compromised. So that's who this article is for. It is not for you folks. If you are doing it yourself, though, there are certain things you can do. You can put it behind a firewall. You can make sure that's the only ports that are needed for your TV are open, right? Those are things you can do if you do feel the need to put it up yourself, though.
Heather, as I kind of mentioned in that question to Tim, obviously we know the best practices of placing this behind a specific firewall, putting all those IoT devices on a separate VLAN, getting them off the same, network that the computer that you do banking and everything else on is on. And obviously you can do really basic things like turn off the microphone and cover, the camera with tape and all those really easy things. But a lot of times, especially from the network side, if you're dealing with a large project, sure, you can spend the time and the money to set that up properly. But what happens when you're doing a basic, one-off, a Sonos Playbar or a Beam and a TV on the wall for a client, and it's one of those quick in and out jobs that you're doing to fill time before Christmas? How do you properly protect that client?
Well, I think well, first of all, let's go all the way back here. FBI issues warning on smart TV hacks. So no one's actually done it. There's no examples, right? It's not like here's 700 people that this happened to. It could happen, right? And you know what? If I leave my door unlocked, someone could come in my house. And even if I lock my door, someone could break my window. Like, I feel like all these things, it's how many that someone goes out to their car and ransacks your car or steals the change out of your car when it was in your driveway. That's really what I equate this stuff to. And also, I'll point out that I think that most people, if they're that intelligent to be able to hack in, they probably should go get a real job, because they could get paid a lot more money than working so hard to hack my TV so that they could hear the few words that we say in the room that the TV's in. So I think this is a lot of fear tactics. So this isn't something that I would even bring up to my customers, and I would kind of blow off if they brought it up to me. I actually had a friend text me this article, someone not in the industry, and I kind of said the same thing to him. In an average house, if the client's not concerned or working in some high profile job that they are overly concerned, we are not concerned either. Most people are going to get all upset about someone's going to hack their smart TV. Meanwhile, Netflix knows exactly what you watch. Google's reading all your emails anyway. And you probably have Alexa in there who you speak to and ask her all these questions anyway, right? Like what's the fear, right? We're giving so much of it away anyway. And then we're going to freak out about these other parts that we don't think that we said okay to.
Very good.
Off my soapbox.
Off your soapbox. I love it. And for that fact, I did get asked that last week when we put in a brand new 75-inch Samsung that had the voice remote. Who's listening to this? Everyone. Literally everyone. Then I laughed. He laughed.
No,
Alexa laughed.
Don't.
No, don't do that one. Oh, come on. She just said she can laugh. All right, let's kick off our last story of the day. This comes to us from a Residential Tech Today and our good friend, Henry Clifford. Henry, thanks for writing such a fun article. Henry had a chance to review the new NAD M10 Blue OS streaming amplifier, which he is asking if it's a keeper or too good to be true. If you don't know NAD, first of all, check them out. They make some really, really cool, very nice high-end products. This is their new sleek and sexy 100-watt amplifier that is coupled with MQA, which is Master Quality Authenticated Audio Support. It also includes direct live room correction and seems to do a lot of really fun things very, very easily. So read through this review. Henry goes through a bunch of the basics, the things that we in the industry find sexy, as well as really the fact that this for him seems to be checking a ton of the boxes for a way in which he can set up his nice little 2-channel audio addiction. So Heather, I'm going to come back to you and kind of start with this question of, it's a nice device. I love the 100 watts per channel. I love the fact it has Dirac in it. If you don't know Dirac, check it out. It is fantastic room correction software. It also has a price tag of just under $2,800 for a 2-channel amplifier. Now, I'll preface that statement with the fact that you and I both know very well that there are a lot of people in the 2-channel world who will find that to be a drop in the bucket. But as kind of the entry, hey, let's get into 2-channel, is this something that, one, you find attractive, not just from a price point, but from the offerings? But how do you stack something like this up against something like a Rialto or even a Sonos amp? Where do you hit that price point of quality over substance, over accessibility,
over ease, over an app that works all the time, over I can get in and out and I don't have to learn anything new? Oh, sorry. Today. So I agree with what Henry said in this article, that if you have a single room and a nice set of speakers, so if you're driving a $5,000 pair speaker or more, or 10,000 or something crazy, then yes, this could be your entry level into putting that together. If your client's going to continue to add on and they're not going to have all these, I think it's a niche item, and I'm sure they started with, hey, Sonos is doing well and let's do this. But I feel it was a little bit late. This had come out 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I feel that there was a really big hole between when Sonos started to gain popularity and when everybody else finally came out with products to compete against them. They were smart in the way that they put this together, that they did make it more of a niche item so that it's fancier and better and has all sorts of bells and whistles and more acronyms, because we love acronyms. Just put 4 letters or 3 letters together in our industry and it means something. I don't think that it's going to be a mass market. I don't think it's going to hurt any of the other players either.
Very good. Tim, when I saw this, I kind of went down Heather's first comments there for a moment. And the more I thought about it, the more, to be honest, I was confused. I've dealt with a ton of, audiophile, quote unquote, people, and they don't want an all-in-one box. They want to be able to walk you over to their fancy shelf and go, ooh, so this is my preamp, and this is my amp, and this is my DAC, and this is my Dirac, room correction device, and this does this, and this does this, and oh my gosh, I use these cables, and it's this hour-long debate over, hey, can we listen to some John Mayer? And I see this, and I see the touchscreen display in the front, and I love the back end of it. It looks great. I love what Henry loves about this. But at $2,800, to me, it seems way too expensive for that kind of entry level, dare I say, millennial type client who's going to want that all in one. Am I missing the bar here, or are they missing the bar?
I don't think either of you missed the bar. I think that you're just not making the connection, because you just said it. It's the millennial and the Gen Z behind them. Our good friend George Tucker years ago in one of our AV weeks talked about his love of weighted knobs, right? That's the person you're talking about, Matt, is the person who will walk you to their rack and they'll show you their record player that's, $5,000 and it has these counterweighted and all this jazz. The knobs on the Macintosh amplifier that, are heavier than, a drive shaft or whatever, that's that person. And those of that ilk, they're going to do that. I don't know that the millennials have expressed themselves in that way, simply because you look at the market share and you look at what's the mass market purchasing. they like Sonos, right? And there's a reason Sonos came out with an amplifier, because they did the market research and said, oh, let's start doing this, and let's start, this product here feeds into the all-in-ones, feeds into the convenience, feeds into, Heather mentioned the consistent app. That generation and that consumer who, there might be a very, very small portion of them, who likes to have the different components in the rack full of gear, but the vast majority of us don't. Not only in our homes, but also in our offices. And that's a whole nother conversation about hiding gear and hiding tech and hiding AV, and that becoming a design push right now in both architecture, but also in interior design, where they don't want to see the tech. This kind of fits that niche as well, where, minimalist AV, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I must say, I was reading a Motor Trend last night at my dad's house, and they're reviewing a bunch of cars, and one of them stated that it had weighted knobs, like that Marantz receiver from the 70s. And I'm like, oh, I'm buying this car. I don't even know what it was. I don't remember, but I would buy it for weighted knobs, just so we're clear, because I'm an old man at heart. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Let's leave it there. Heather, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Southtown AV, as well as follow you on all the social medias, where can they do that?
Southtownav.com would be where you might find me, to be serious. If we want to chitter chat and have a little bit of fun, then on Twitter at tech, TECH_chi, as in the ultimate Zen, CHI. And
Tim,
everything else.
Of course. Thank you so much, my friend. Tim, if people want to connect with you, learn more about AVNation and the Blues or the Bears, where can they do that?
They can do it on the Twitters, where last Thursday I was trolling Matt Scott at TD Albright.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt E. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show, as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.
Happy holidays!